He walked through the library like he owned the knowledge, but he never looked down, because he didn't realize the greatest wisdom was sweeping the floors beneath his feet. This is the story of Elena, a cleaner in one of the city's most prestigious libraries, a woman defined by her invisibility. Every night she moves like a ghost among the towering shelves, her presence as silent and overlooked as the dust motes dancing in the moonlight. She finds a strange solace in this solitude, a quiet refuge from a world that once shattered her heart. The books are her only companions, their stories a silent chorus to her own, a tale of love lost, and a son who vanished into the world of academia, leaving her behind. The profound silence of the night is her only true company, a vast and echoing void that reflects the emptiness she feels inside. Her life is a routine of careful, meticulous order. Each shelf, each table, each intricate carving on the wooden chairs is a testament to her devotion. Yet for all her effort, she's just a figure in the background, a shadow in the grand hall of intellect. The students and professors who fill the library during the day see only the polished floors and the neatly arranged books, never the hands that make it so. They are the living, breathing knowledge. She is merely the caretaker of their dust. It is a profound loneliness, the kind that settles in your bones and makes the silence of the night feel heavy. Her movements are almost balletic in their precision, a practiced dance of tidiness that attempts to quiet the turmoil within. She polishes the brass railings until they gleam, a futile effort to make the world as perfect as she wishes her life could be. Her sanctuary, a place both of profound pain and a strange kind of peace, is section 17, the astronomy section. This is the one part of her world she never fully cleans. A thin layer of dust clings to the spines of books on black holes and distant galaxies, a symbolic barrier she has erected between herself and a past that is too painful to touch. This section represents the dreams of her only son, a boy who once looked up at the stars with a wonder that mirrored her own. Now, the dust is a testament to the years of silence between them, a physical manifestation of the chasm that has grown, a deliberate untidiness in her otherwise perfect world. Every time she passes by, her heart clenches, and she feels the sting of his absence as acutely as if he had just left. Have you ever felt so invisible that you felt like a ghost? It's a pain that a person can't simply sweep away. Elena's world is this great library, a place of immense knowledge, yet she is utterly alone in it. The grand architecture and intellectual buzz of the day only serve to highlight her isolation at night. This contrast is a constant, subtle reminder of her place in the world, a woman who cares for the vessels of knowledge, but is never considered a part of the vast intellectual world they contain. Her hands, so gentle with the books, hold a grief that is as deep and complex as any subject on these shelves, a mourning for a son who is not gone, but simply out of reach. The weight of his absence is heavier than any book. Suddenly, a single book in section 17 falls from its shelf with a soft thud, the sound echoing through the silent halls like a gunshot. Elena freezes, her heart pounding with a sudden, inexplicable dread. It's as if the past, which she so desperately tried to bury, has just found a way to call out to her, a physical manifestation of her deepest fears. She holds her breath, the silence that follows feeling heavier than ever before. What could have caused such a disturbance in her perfectly ordered world? What story was about to unfold? Elena approaches the fallen book with a strange mixture of apprehension and dread. It's an old, leather-bound volume on celestial mechanics, a subject her son was obsessed with. She picks it up, her fingers tracing the faded gold letters on the spine. A wisp of dust rises from the cover, and for a moment she's back in their small, humble home, watching him draw constellations on a smudged notebook. This unexpected break in her routine, the simple sound of a book falling, feels like an intrusion of the past into her carefully maintained present. It's a crack in the wall she's built, letting a sliver of her suppressed pain through. She puts the book back, but the silence no longer feels like a sanctuary. The weight of the moment hangs in the air, a palpable sadness that has been stirred from its slumber. Her life is a series of careful rituals, each one a defense mechanism against the chaos of her emotions. The precision with which she aligns the books, the rhythmic sweep of her broom, the way she polishes the empty tables where students once sat, all of it is a desperate attempt to impose order on a life that feels fundamentally broken. But lately, the rituals are failing. The memory of her son is more vivid, the pain of his absence more acute. She finds herself staring at the empty spaces where his laughter once was, hearing echoes of a past she can't reclaim. The library, once her safe haven, is beginning to feel like a prison of her own making, a beautiful, gilded cage, filled with the ghosts of what could have been. The polished floors now feel slick with her own unspoken tears. One night, as she's polishing the main reading table, a new book lies open on a chair. A post-it note is stuck to the page, with a series of complex equations scribbled on it. She recognizes the kind of writing, the symbols and numbers, a language that was once a part of her daily life. It's a language that her son once used to speak to her. A shiver runs through her, a mix of nostalgia and a fresh wave of grief. She wants to crumple the note and throw it away, to erase this painful reminder of what she lost, but she can't. She carefully places the note inside the book, a small, involuntary act of preservation. The gesture is a desperate, silent plea to the universe, a hope that the note's owner will find it, that this small piece of a broken puzzle might find its way back to being whole. She feels an unbidden sense of connection to the stranger who left it behind. She finds herself drawn back to section 17, her uncleaned sanctuary, again and again. It's as if the area itself holds the memories she both craves and fears. The dust feels like a layer of time, a physical manifestation of the 15 years that have passed since she last saw her son's face. She runs her finger along the dusty spines, a silent, solitary communion with a past that is both beautiful and agonizing. This is her penance, her pilgrimage, a way of holding on to the boy she once knew, the one who dreamed of stars before he became the man who was ashamed of her. This is her secret, and it's a heavy one to carry, a love that has nowhere to go. She closes her eyes and imagines him here, a young boy with a universe of possibilities in his mind. A subtle change begins to occur in her routine. Instead of just cleaning, she finds herself pausing, observing the details left behind by the daytime visitors. A discarded coffee cup, a crumpled piece of paper with a drawing, a stray pencil. She sees glimpses of their lives, their dreams and their struggles. It is a slow, almost imperceptible shift from her own inner world to a quiet, empathetic observation of others. She begins to notice the rhythm of the library's day-to-day existence, a new melody to her own solitary song. The library starts to feel less like a tomb and more like a living, breathing entity, full of stories she is just beginning to read. And then she sees it. A small glimmer catches her eye. Tucked deep within the pages of a forgotten book, a small folded piece of paper is barely visible. It's a twin to the post-it note she saw earlier. A jolt of hope, sharp and unexpected, runs through her. Could this be more than just a coincidence? Could this be a sign that the universe is listening to her after all these years of silent prayers? The following night, a man arrives at the library after hours. He is Professor Alistair Finch, an arrogant astrophysicist consumed by his own intellectual pursuits. He is searching for a rare, ancient book on cosmic theory, a book he needs to prove his groundbreaking hypothesis. Elena watches him from the shadows, an invisible observer. She sees the tension in his face, the frustration in his gestures as he frantically searches the shelves. He is a man who thinks he knows everything, but she, sees the fear lurking in his eyes, the fear of failure. It is a pain she knows well, a quiet anxiety that lives beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect life. She recognizes the desperation in his movements, the frantic energy that comes from a deep-seated fear of not being enough. The professor, in his haste, knocks over a stack of books near section 17. He lets out an exasperated sigh, his face a mask of annoyance. He doesn't notice Elena, who quietly comes out of the shadows to begin tidying up. He's oblivious to her presence, his mind focused only on his goal, but as he sorts through the books, a small, wrinkled piece of paper falls to the floor. It is the post-it note with the complex equations. He picks it up, his arrogant demeanor replaced by one of intense focus. He stares at the scribbled symbols, his breath catching. This is it, the missing piece of his research. He clutches the paper tightly, as if it were a life raft in a stormy sea, his entire world now revolving around this small, seemingly insignificant scrap. He is ecstatic, but the equation is incomplete. He spends the next few hours frantically searching for the other half, his arrogance giving way to desperation. Elena watches him from the distance, her heart aching with empathy. She knows the feeling of searching for a missing piece, of a quest that feels impossible. She sees his pain, his fear, and she recognizes a part of her own grief in his struggle. It is a shared humanity that transcends their different stations in life, a silent connection forged in the crucible of their individual loneliness. The library, once a place of her own solitary pain, now holds another's, and for the first time in years she feels a flicker of something other than sorrow. His frantic search echoes her own long-held desire for a connection that has been lost. Driven by a sense of empathy she hasn't felt in years, she decides to approach him. He looks at her, a moment of confusion and impatience on his face, seeing her for the first time not as an invisible servant, but as a person. She holds out her hand, a small, silent gesture. In her palm is the second wrinkled piece of paper she found. The professor's eyes widen as he takes it. The symbols match perfectly. The two halves of the equation are now one. A flicker of connection passes between them, a recognition that they are not so different after all, two broken souls in search of something whole. This is a profound moment, a breaking of the invisible wall that separates them. The air between them crackles with a silent understanding, a bridge built between two worlds that were never meant to meet. The professor looks at the two pieces of paper, then back at Elena, his expression a mixture of awe and disbelief. Where did you find this?" he whispers. In that single, hushed question, he finally sees her. The invisible woman is seen, and the silence that has been her world is finally broken by a voice that holds genuine respect. A question so simple, yet it holds the key to a truth far more profound than any equation he has ever solved. He insists that Elena stay and watch him work. He unravels the equation, the symbols and numbers coming together to form a coherent whole. She watches him, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. The equation, it turns out, is a solution to a problem that has plagued his field for decades. With the combined information from the two notes, he finally proves his theory. The professor is elated, his face a mix of relief and triumph. He thanks her, but something in his eyes has changed. He doesn't see her as a mere cleaner anymore. He sees the quiet intelligence in her gaze, the wisdom that is not learned from books, but from a life of quiet observation. His moment of triumph is overshadowed by a deeper, more profound realization. He asks her about the notes, about how she came to find the second half. Elena hesitates for a long moment, then tells him a little about her son, about his passion for astronomy, about his dreams. She talks about the library as his sanctuary, the place where he spent his days buried in books on stars and galaxies. As she speaks, the professor's arrogance melts away. He listens intently, his own struggle with failure now a backdrop to her profound story of loss and resilience. He finally sees her, not as an old woman sweeping floors, but as a mother who loves her son, a woman who understands a deeper kind of cosmic connection than any he has ever studied. This is her moment of being seen, not for her status, but for the depth of her soul. The professor, in his own moment of quiet reflection, reveals a truth of his own. The theory he was working on was not for personal glory, but a tribute to his estranged father, a man who also loved the stars, but never had the chance to study them. His fear of failure was a fear of letting his father down. He and Elena are two sides of the same coin, both living with the pain of a broken family connection, both seeking solace in the vastness of the universe. In that moment, the sterile, intellectual world of the library is filled with the warmth of shared human experience. He realizes that the true wisdom he found wasn't in the mathematical solution, but in the heart of the woman who held the missing piece. The vastness of the universe suddenly seems small compared to the depth of human connection they have just forged. He extends his hand to her, not as a professor to a cleaner, but as one soul to another. He asks for her help with his new research, a new quest that is no longer about proving himself, but about understanding a deeper truth. Elena accepts, her heart filled with a kind of hope she hasn't felt in a decade and a half. The wound of her son's abandonment begins to heal, not because he came back, but because she found a new connection, a new purpose. The library is no longer a prison of her grief. It is a testament to her quiet strength. This is her new beginning, a new chapter in the story she thought was over. The universe, which once felt so distant and cold, now feels full of possibility, full of new stories waiting to be told. If this story touched your heart, imagine what's coming next. The professor's discovery is announced to the world, and he gives a speech crediting the anonymous source who provided the missing piece. The media is abuzz with speculation, but he keeps Elena's identity a secret, honoring her quiet wish for privacy. He invites her to his office at the university, a place that would have once terrified her. Now, she walks with her head held high, not as an old woman, but as a colleague. She helps him with his research, her quiet observations and deep intuition proving to be invaluable. The arrogant professor becomes her respectful partner, learning from her in ways he never thought possible. But the final twist is the deepest one. Months later, as they are preparing for a new phase of their research, they come across an old, dusty textbook. Inside, tucked between the pages, is a small, faded photograph. It's a picture of the professor as a young man, standing next to his father, both of them smiling at the night sky. On the back, in a familiar, messy handwriting, are the words, "For my son, never give up on the stars." Elena's hands tremble as she looks at the writing, a wave of emotion crashing over her. It is her son's handwriting. The professor looks at the photo, then at the note she found, the realization dawning on him. The second note was left by her son, a silent message from him to her, to his mentor, a message that finally found its way home. The professor, stunned and speechless, looks at Elena, his eyes full of a new kind of understanding. He finally sees the true depth of her pain and the incredible, almost cosmic coincidence that brought them together. He understands now that this wasn't just a random act of kindness, but a destiny written in the stars, a final silent word from her son. Elena finally finds a quiet peace, a sense of closure she never thought possible. Her son, though physically absent, had found a way to reach her, to bridge the chasm that separated them. If this story moved you, subscribe and join us for more journeys of hope and resilience.